In this video, we'll be reviewing the Bambu Lab P1S. So is this the 3D printer that you should get? And do I regret choosing this 3D printer as the main 3D printer for my print farm? So to start, let's just do a complete overview of this 3D printer. So first off, what is this here? This is the Bambu Lab P1S with an AMS on top. You could either get just the P1S or the P1S combo, which includes the AMS or the automatic material system. So first off, this 3D printer is extremely easy to assemble. It basically comes fully assembled right out of the box. It's one of the easiest 3D printers to assemble. However, it's not quite as easy to assemble as the Bambu Lab A1 Mini, which is very, very easy to assemble. And compared to the new A1, it's much easier to assemble. So let's talk about build volume. This 3D printer has a build volume of 256 by 256 by 256, which is a decently medium to large sized build volume, which is perfect for most prints. For example, this print right here was printed on the Bambu Lab P1S, as well as this, as well as this. So you can see, you could print an entire Star Wars droid on the P1S, and you will only have to cut in half a few parts. About 95% of the parts fit perfectly on the P1S. For example, this entire head right here. So this 3D printer is what's called a Core XY 3D printer. This means that the bed goes up and down, and the nozzle moves in the X and Y direction. So as it's printing, it starts from the top like this, and it's printing X and Y directions here, and the bed lowers like so. The nozzle never goes up and down, the bed goes down as it prints. And this printer is very fast. It's basically one of the fastest 3D printers on the market today. Another cool thing about this printer is that you can print wirelessly from your phone, and you don't even have to slice the files if you use Bambu Lab's app, MakerWorld. So let's talk about reliability, one of the most important factors when it comes to buying a 3D printer. Not long ago, most 3D printers required a ton of maintenance and a lot of tweaking to get working. So how is this 3D printer compared to the old 3D printers? Well, for example, I printed this entire giant threadboards wall all on the Bambu Lab P1S, everything right here. And I basically had no issues whatsoever printing all of these pieces and even these pieces over here. I also printed an entire Star Wars B1 droid on the Bambu Lab P1S with basically no failures. And if I ever did have a failure, it's because I forgot to turn on the heated build plate in the slicer settings. So let's go ahead and talk about the build plate that comes with the Bambu Lab P1S. This is a textured PEI build plate, which is very, very good for most things. The only downside I see with PEI is that because it's heated, you do have to wait for it to cool down. But if you're not trying to peel the parts off immediately and you let it cool down, the parts self-release from the build plate. And it also gives a very cool textured look on your part. The PEI build plate is best for everyday materials like PLA, PETG, and even ABS. If you want to print with more advanced features, you'll probably need to get the engineering plate that Bambu Lab offers. So as you can see, the Bambu Lab P1S is a fully enclosed 3D printer, which has a lot of benefits. For one, it looks nice and neat and tidy and very aesthetic. And also it has an air quality filter for the chamber. That means that you don't have to worry about the smell of plastic as much. And this is especially important if you want to print with something like ABS or other materials like that. So how much does this 3D printer cost? You could just get the P1S right here for $699 USD, or you get the P1S combo for $949, so under $1,000 USD, which in my opinion is a very, very good value for what you get. This is a high performance, high quality, extremely reliable workhorse 3D printer. So let's go ahead and talk about the limitations of the P1S. The first major downside with this 3D printer is this screen right here. They really put a low quality screen on this 3D printer compared to, let's say, the X1 Carbon or even the new A1 Mini and A1 printers, which have really nice touchscreen interfaces. This one just kind of has a very basic interface, which isn't too much of a problem if you're mostly doing remote printing. So if you don't care about having a touchscreen, then this screen is totally fine and it does work. The other thing about this 3D printer is it doesn't quite print advanced engineering grade materials such as polycarbonate. It comes with a stainless steel nozzle which will wear down over time if you're using abrasive materials. However, you can upgrade it to a hardened steel nozzle, and you could also upgrade the extruder gear to a stronger extruder gear as well. Both of these are available on the Bambu Lab website. Also, when it comes to printing engineering grade materials, the build plate doesn't quite get hot enough for some materials such as polycarbonate. The build plate goes up to about 100 degrees Celsius. For example, the Bambu Lab X1 Carbon's build plate goes up to 120 degrees Celsius, and it comes with a hardened steel nozzle, which is better for abrasive materials. So when it comes to build volume, this has 256 by 256 by 256, which is the same build volume as the brand new A1 3D printer. So that introduces a new choice for the consumer. Should you get the P1S or should you get the Bambu Lab A1 when they both have the same build volume? Well, the obvious main difference is that the A1 does not have an enclosure, while the P1S has a claimed 20 meters per second squared acceleration, while the A1 has a claimed 10 meters per second squared acceleration. The biggest difference for me is the design of the AMS. So the P1S has the regular AMS, or the automatic material system, which allows you to print up to 4 colors or materials. Whereas the new Bambu Lab A1 comes with a AMS light, which either can be mounted on the side or can be mounted on top. And in my opinion, this just looks a little bit cluttered and your filament is exposed to the outside air, whereas the P1S, we have all the filament inside this enclosure and it's constantly being dried by the desiccant packs. So for example, in my print farm, I chose to not get AMSs originally. So I just got the $699 printer right here. And then eventually I upgraded about half of my printers to include the AMS. And the reason I like the AMS so much is because when you need to change out your materials, you can just open this and it's super easy to swap out materials like this. You don't have to do any loading or unloading sequences, which really improves workflow. So now on the other side of the spectrum, we have the P1S versus the X1 Carbon, or the P1S versus the X1 Carbon combo. So what are the main differences between the P1S and the X1 Carbon? And let's assume both of them have the AMS. Well, first off, we have the price. So the Bambu Lab X1 Carbon with the AMS is about $500 more expensive than this setup here. The P1S has a fan that is much louder, and the P1S in general is actually slower than the Bambu Lab X1 Carbon. This is because it has a cheaper microprocessor. So the Wi-Fi on the P1S is a little bit slower, and you'll notice that if you're sending big files over Wi-Fi, you'll notice it takes a long time for the files to actually download to the 3D printer. Also, the camera on the P1S is a little bit slower when you're looking at the camera feed in Bambu Studio. It's a little bit laggy and choppy as well. This is because the computer is not quite as powerful on this 3D printer compared to the X1 Carbon combo. Another big difference between the P1S and the X1 Carbon is this printer does not have the hardened steel nozzle or the hardened extruder gear, and it doesn't have the LiDAR sensor, which is great for detecting the first layer. So when the X1 Carbon prints, it has a scanner and it literally scans the first layer to make sure it's not defective, and it also does spaghetti failure detection as well. So let's answer the question now. Who should get the Bambu Lab P1S? Well, if you're looking for a great, compact, workhorse 3D printer that's fast, extremely reliable, it's a little bit loud, but it's fully enclosed, and you don't ever want to really print any advanced engineering grade materials like ASA or polycarbonate, then this 3D printer is a really, really great 3D printer. So now, do I regret getting this 3D printer, the Bambu Lab P1S, as the main workhorse 3D printer for my print farm? And the answer is absolutely not. This printer is extremely good, and I know there's a lot of hype for Bambu, but I would say Bambu definitely lives up to the hype. So I have a bunch of these printers now, and like I said, I printed this entire giant-sized threadboards wall as well as an entire Star Wars droid, all on the Bambu Lab P1S 3D printers, and they basically printed everything flawlessly. So overall, I would highly recommend the P1S with the AMS, It's probably my favorite Bambu Lab setup right here, just for a middle ground workhorse, get it done 3D printer. Thanks for watching. My name is Steven from 3D Printer Academy, and happy printing.
If you're brand new to 3D printing, or if you just want to learn more things, head over to 3dprinteracademy.com, where you can find a bunch of free resources as well as some unique STL designs. And I also have some articles about the best 3D printers that you could get. For example, the best bed slinger, or maybe the best 3D printer in general, is the brand new Bambu Lab A1 right here. It's only $299, and you can read all about it on this article. You can check out some news and interviews. Here's the interview with the Bambu Lab CEO. It's very interesting. And you can even learn some basic 3D printing tips and tricks, like how to modify STLs, as well as a bunch of resources on 3D modeling. So once again, that's 3dprinteracademy.com. My name is Steven. Thanks for watching, and happy printing.